Falcon Base always carried a quiet tension, the kind that settled into the walls after years of secret operations and missions no one was allowed to discuss openly. But today, that tension mixed with something new: laughter. A fresh rotation of Navy SEALs had arrived, loud, confident, shoulders wide, boots heavy on the polished floor as they marched into the mess hall like they owned the space. Soldiers from every division watched the newcomers with a mix of curiosity and caution. Among them, Petty Officer Marcus Vance stood out instantly. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a reputation for talking before thinking. And thinking he was the toughest man in any room he entered. At the far corner of the mess hall sat Lieutenant Aria Hawley, a woman known for moving through the base with quiet purpose. She wasn't flashy, didn't have over-decorated sleeves, and she kept her uniform clean, as if discipline itself was woven into the fabric. She ate alone, not by isolation, but by habit, always observing, always calm. When Vance spotted her, he nudged his teammates, smirking as if he'd found easy entertainment. "Lieutenant, huh?" he said loudly as he walked toward her table. "They giving out ranks for perfect attendance these days?" His voice echoed across the hall, drawing the attention of several soldiers. A few chuckled nervously. Others stiffened immediately, recognizing who he was mocking. Aria didn't look up at first. She took another slow bite of her meal, her expression unchanged. Vance pulled out a chair, spun it around, and sat backwards on it like he was about to interrogate her. "Come on, ma'am," he continued. "You look a little too neat to have earned that rank the hard way. Textbook promotions, right?" The air in the mess hall thickened. Soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Some SEALs shifted uncomfortably, sensing this wasn't the harmless joke Vance thought it was. Aria finally lifted her eyes, calm and steady, the kind of gaze that didn't challenge but didn't yield either. She studied him for a moment, not out of offense, but as if measuring whether he was even worth a response. Vance grinned, ready for a flustered reaction, maybe even a defensive speech. But Aria simply set down her fork, folded her hands gently on the table, and inhaled like someone about to recite a fact rather than argue. The room fell into a strange stillness. Even the ventilation fan seemed to quiet down. That was the moment everyone realized something unexpected was about to happen. Aria wasn't angry. She wasn't intimidated. She was preparing to answer him quietly. And that quiet was far more dangerous than shouting. Aria didn't raise her voice. She didn't straighten her posture or try to look intimidating. She simply met Vance's eyes with a stillness that unsettled him more than any shout ever could. The mess hall remained frozen around them. Forks hovered mid-air, chairs stopped halfway pulled out, conversations turned into perfect silence. Every soldier in the room sensed that whatever she was about to say would shift the mood in ways Vance hadn't anticipated. When Aria finally spoke, her voice was soft enough that people had to lean forward to catch her words. "Petty Officer Vance," she began, with a calm that carried more authority than volume ever could. "My rank was not earned in classrooms or offices." She didn't blink as she continued. "I was commissioned after serving in Recon Unit 7, then reassigned to a team under Joint Special Operations Command." Several soldiers stiffened at the mention. JSOC wasn't casual territory. Vance's grin faded, but she wasn't finished. Aria paused, letting her words settle before adding the line that changed everything. "My last deployment was part of Operation Echo Veil." Gasps moved through the mess hall like a wave. Echo Veil was a whispered legend, an operation so classified that even high-ranking officers rarely acknowledged its existence. Every soldier understood one thing: only Tier 1 operatives were ever selected for it. And anyone who survived it carried a reputation carved in fire. Aria didn't brag. She didn't list medals or accomplishments. She simply laid down facts as gently as someone placing a glass on a table. And that humility cut deeper than any boast. Vance's shoulders, previously puffed with confidence, slowly sank. His jaw tightened as he realized he had just mocked someone whose battlefield experience dwarfed his own. But Arya didn't glare. She didn't humiliate him. She offered him the dignity of a calm truth. Her quietness wasn't weakness, it was control. And in that moment, every SEAL, soldier, and officer in the room understood the same thing. The woman Vance tried to belittle was someone far above the rank printed on her uniform. The mess hall incident faded only after Arya quietly returned to her meal, leaving the room full of soldiers trying to process what they had just witnessed. But before anyone could approach her, the base intercom crackled to life, breaking the silence with urgency. "Lieutenant Arya Hale, report to command immediately. Priority 1. A Priority 1 call wasn't routine. It wasn't even rare, it was dangerous. It meant something had gone terribly wrong somewhere in the world. Arya stood without hesitation, cleared her tray, and walked out with the same controlled calm she used to dismantle Vance's mockery minutes earlier. The SEALs watched her go, confusion and respect mixing heavily in their expressions. Vance remained still, replaying her words in his mind, realizing how deeply he had misjudged her. In the command briefing room, the air felt heavier. Large screens displayed satellite images, an extraction mission gone bad in hostile terrain. A covert team had been ambushed, communication lines were failing, and the window for rescue was shrinking fast. The briefing officer didn't waste time. "Lieutenant Hale, we need you to lead the rescue. Your experience with Echo Veil tactics makes you the best option we have." Arya nodded once, already analyzing the terrain, the timing, the compromised routes. She asked precise questions, her mind calculating every angle without needing theatrics. Her voice stayed steady, even as others in the room carried tension in their shoulders. Then came the final detail, one that made the earlier mess hall moment even more ironic. Her assigned team for the mission would be the newly arrived SEALs, including Marcus Vance. When Arya walked into the mission prep room, the SEALs straightened instantly. The cocky energy they had brought hours earlier was gone, replaced by quiet professionalism. Vance avoided her eyes at first, but when their gazes finally met, Arya gave him a small, respectful nod, acknowledgement without blame. She stepped up to the holographic map and briefed the mission. Her strategy was sharp, detailed, and confident. She broke down enemy patterns, escape routes, and fallback plans with a clarity that silenced any doubt. Even the most seasoned SEALs listened as if they were students in front of a master. Vance finally understood. She wasn't just someone to respect. She was someone to follow, and soon, he would see exactly why. The helicopter blades thundered against the night sky as Arya and the SEAL team descended into enemy territory. The air felt heavier than usual, thick with dust, smoke, and the lingering tension of a botched extraction. As soon as boots hit the ground, Arya signaled the team forward with silent hand gestures. Her movements were sharp, efficient, every step calculated with the precision of someone who had lived through countless missions like this. The terrain was hostile, a maze of broken structures and narrow corridors where shadows moved unpredictably. Arya took point without hesitation, guiding the team into the ruins where the trapped operatives were last detected. Within minutes, the first complication hit them. Enemy reinforcements arrived earlier than predicted, flooding the area with gunfire. Chaos exploded around them. But while the bass of gunfire grew louder, Arya's voice in the comms remained steady. "2 teams, split. Push right on my mark." Her tone carried zero fear, only clarity. The SEALs obeyed instantly. Arya led the right flank, ducking behind collapsed walls, returning fire with crisp accuracy. Her aim was relentless. Every shot landed exactly where it needed to. Vance watched her move like she anticipated the battlefield itself, predicting ambush angles, changing paths seconds before danger appeared. This wasn't luck. This was mastery. They reached the pinned operatives, a pair of wounded soldiers trapped under debris with enemies closing in. Arya didn't hesitate. She sprinted into open fire, sliding behind a broken slab of concrete and laying down covering shots so precise the seals could drag the injured men out safely. Vance had never seen bravery delivered with such calm precision. Their escape route collapsed moments later when explosives detonated in the structure behind them, forcing the team deeper into the ruins. Dust filled the air. Visibility dropped. The building groaned as it began to buckle. Vance got trapped under falling debris, panic rising in his chest as enemy footsteps closed in. Arya appeared through the haze, pulling him free with a strength that didn't match her size. She dragged him behind cover, firing 3 perfect shots that dropped the advancing hostiles. "You're not dying on my mission," she said quietly. Not as a boast, but as a promise. Together. They pushed toward the extraction zone as the collapsing structure thundered behind them. By the time the helicopter lifted off, Vance finally understood the truth. Arya Holly wasn't just qualified to lead them. She was the reason any of them were alive. Falcon Base felt different the morning after the rescue. Word had spread faster than any rumor, faster than any gossip. Soldiers across the base whispered about how Lieutenant Arya Hall led a mission that should have been impossible. How she walked her team through fire, collapsed structures, and overwhelming odds without raising her voice once. How every SEAL returned alive. By noon, the mess hall was unusually quiet, filled with a strange mix of admiration and anticipation. People kept glancing toward the entrance, waiting for her. When Arya finally stepped inside, there was no fanfare. She entered with her usual calm, her uniform neat, her expression neutral. But instead of the normal scattered chatter, every soldier in the room rose to their feet. The sound of chairs scraping back echoed like a salute. And standing first before anyone else was Marcus Vance. He wasn't the swaggering SEAL from before. His shoulders no longer carried arrogance but respect. He walked toward her slowly, stopping at a distance that showed humility rather than dominance. When he saluted her, it wasn't forced. It wasn't out of obligation. It was genuine. "Lieutenant Halle," he said, voice steady but softer than anyone had heard from him. "I owe you an apology. For my words. For my assumptions. For everything I didn't understand." There was no audience laughter, no awkward tension, just silence waiting for her response. Arya returned the salute, her expression unchanged yet somehow warm. "Petty Officer Vance," she replied quietly, "there's nothing to apologize for. Respect isn't taken. It's earned. You earned yours out there." Her words disarmed him more than any reprimand could have. The mess hall slowly resumed its noise. But something fundamental had shifted. The woman who once ate alone now walked through a room that honored her without a single spoken order. And everyone remembered the lesson. True dominance isn't loud, it's undeniable.